24/7, I'm Aaron Dean. On what is expected to be the final day of the term, the Supreme Court handing down decisions in two critical cases that could have wide-ranging implications for millions of Americans regarding LGBTQ+ rights and President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. The Advocate Channel's Chris Wynn reports.
The Supreme Court handing down a pair of key decisions Friday, ruling 6-3 to block President Joe Biden's plan to cancel an estimated $430 billion in student loan debt.
This relief was so needed, and I know that many people like me are really worried and concerned about their financial wellness and stability moving forward.
The decision is a huge blow to the administration, which aimed to deliver up to $20,000 of relief to millions of struggling borrowers. But the White House confirms the president will keep trying. In the same 6-3 split, the Supreme Court's conservative majority also ruled in favor of a Christian web designer refusing to create websites to celebrate same-sex weddings out of religious objections. The decision is rooted in freedom of speech protections, but critics say it will allow more businesses to discriminate against LGBTQ people.
This sweeping opinion promises to destabilize the public marketplace, enabling and encouraging all types of businesses, not just those who make websites, to have a First Amendment right to refuse customers because of who they are.
The blockbuster rulings follow a tumultuous term for the Roberts Court, which has been under a harsh spotlight over ethics and transparency amid reports about Justice Clarence Thomas's pattern of non-disclosures on financial reports.
If you lack legitimacy, people aren't going to listen to you, and then the decisions you issue don't really matter.
In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn.
The Supreme Court also ruled this week that colleges can no longer take race into consideration for admissions. The decision overturning long-standing precedent that has benefited Black and Latino students in higher education. The Advocate Channel's Jessica Schneider breaks down how this ruling will have a major impact for generations to come.
The Supreme Court stirring up protests with its decision gutting affirmative action, saying colleges and universities can no longer rely on race in the admissions process. But prospective students are still allowed to talk about how their race has shaped their experiences in their applications. The 6-3 opinion written by Chief Justice John Roberts will now prohibit students from checking a box indicating their race, specifically saying the practice at Harvard and University of North Carolina cannot be reconciled with the guarantees of the Equal Protection Clause. The majority not explicitly saying they are overruling more than 4 decades of precedent that allowed affirmative action, but the 3 liberal justices writing, "Today this court stands in the way and rolls back decades of precedent and momentous progress."
I'm really most worried about, the youth and the students younger than us in high school and middle school and elementary school who might not get the same opportunity that I did.
The 2 cases were brought by the group Students for Fair Admissions, led by activist Edward Bloom, who has fought for nearly a decade to eradicate affirmative action.
Classifying students by race and ethnicity, treating them differently because of their race and ethnicity, it's unfair.
At the forefront of the Harvard fight, Asian students who argued they were disadvantaged because Harvard prioritized other minorities and used a personal rating score that did not rank them favorably. The issue is deeply personal to Justice Sonia Sotomayor as the first woman of color on the Supreme Court. She issued a fiery dissent accusing the majority of employing an unjustified exercise of power that will only serve to highlight the court's own impotence in the face of an America whose cries for equality resound. Justice Sotomayor has been outspoken in the past, saying that using other methods to ensure diversity won't work.
It's not that I don't believe it works. I don't think the statistics show it works.
In fact, when California banned affirmative action in 1996, UC Berkeley said Black and Hispanic representation on their campus dropped by 50%. But Justice Clarence Thomas, one of 2 Black justices on the High Court, spoke in personal terms too, saying he believes the Constitution is colorblind. While I am painfully aware of the social and economic ravages which have befallen my race and all who suffer discrimination, I hold out enduring hope that this country will live up to its principles, that all men are created equal, are equal citizens, and must be treated equally before the law. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first Black woman on the court, pushed back in a separate dissent, bashing the majority opinion as exuding a let-them-eat-cake obliviousness, and said, deeming race irrelevant in law does not make it so in life.
And the Center for Disease Control and Prevention has given the green light to 2 new RSV vaccines for older Americans, and it's expected to be available in the fall. The endorsement from the CDC director follows recommendations from the agency's Independent Vaccine Advisory Committee and approvals from the FDA. The vaccine from GSK was the world's first RSV vaccine for older adults, and the vaccine from Pfizer was the second to be approved by the federal agencies. RSV is a highly contagious virus that causes flu-like illnesses in people of all ages. Well, the verdict in the trial of the now former school resource officer who was on the job working the day of the Parkland school shooting is in. The jury unanimously found the officer not guilty on all counts. The Advocate Channel takes you inside the courtroom right now.
Only 2 people were charged after the 2018 mass shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, which killed 17 students and staff. One, the shooter, the other, Scott Peterson, a school resource officer who prosecutors said failed to confront the gunman to save lives. Peterson faced 11 charges ranging from felony child neglect to perjury. Thursday,
the defendant is not guilty.
11 times he was found not guilty.
We've got our life back after 4.5 years.
5.5.
Peterson's visible relief was met with disbelief from family members of some of the Parkland victims. Manuel Oliver, whose son Joaquin was killed in the mass shooting, says this was not a day to celebrate.
Joaquin cannot say today, oh, I'm going back to my life. He will never say that. You guys signed for that job.
And what was expected was for Scott Peterson to value the lives of those children as much as he clearly valued his own.
Instead, prosecutor Kristen Gomes pointed out, Peterson stayed in a protected position for more than 45 minutes, while the shooter was free to move and continue his rampage. Peterson, who did not testify, has said he didn't go in because he did not know where the gunshots originated. After his acquittal, Peterson focused attention back on the other person facing charges, the shooter.
The only person to blame was that monster.
I'm Emily Schmidt, reporting.
The sister of the civil rights icon Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has died. The King Center announced that Christine King Ferris passed away this week at the age of 95. She was the eldest and last living sibling of MLK Jr., as well as the founding member of the King Center in Atlanta. The King Center said that Ferris spent much of her life advocating for equality, just like her brother and other family members. But she was also a champion of literacy and education. The statement from the King Center says that her life, quote, overflowed with acts of love, service, and education. And some more sad news today. One of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen has died. Homer Hogues passed away Tuesday in Dallas, 2 days after his wife of more than 7 decades died, according to an obituary provided by relatives. In 1946, Hogues entered the Army Air Corps, serving as a mechanic in one of the first units of black aviators in the U.S. military. After his career in the Army ended, he was employed at an electroplanting facility in Texas for roughly 40 years before retiring. He was 96 years old. Switching gears, the risk of getting sick from foodborne illnesses is back up to pre-pandemic levels. The CDC says in 2022, cases of intestinal infections from E. coli, salmonella, and other bacteria were about the same as yearly averages from 2016 through 2018. People should also take care of handling raw meat and not leaving food out at room temperature for an extended period of time. Thank you for joining us for AC 24/7. For more, you can go to theadvocatechannel.com and subscribe on the Advocate Channel YouTube page. For AC 24/7, I'm Aaron Dean.